Hey everyone, it's Vincent with Vascotoys. Today I want to talk to you guys about skill development. We're going to talk about creating a water effect, which is going to run through this sewer diorama, and we are going to use water, toilet paper, and Mod Podge to create that effect, and we want it to look gross, grungy, something that fits in with a sewer scape like what we have here. And we're going to show you how simple this actually is if you just have those materials.
Vascotoys, action figure, dioramas, and props.
The first thing we need to do is mix the Mod Podge water solution that we're going to be using. And this is mostly going to be Mod Podge. I don't do like really precise measurements when I do these solutions, so I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. So we're going to start with Mod Podge. You can use like any kind of Mod Podge. I have a gloss one I could totally use as well, but I'm just going to use the regular one. And so I'm going to just dump this in. And I'm just going to make sure that if I probably put a little bit too much in there, but it doesn't really matter because I can just even it out with the water. And I'm actually going to get a popsicle stick to mix this up. My brush wasn't exactly clean, so it's a little bit murky. That doesn't matter though, because we're going to paint this afterwards. And so the consistency is pretty good. Want it to be a little bit watered down. So this is what we're going to go with. And I'll show you guys how to use it next. So now that we have our Mod Podge water solution, I'm just going to take a paintbrush. And like I said, it's not exactly the cleanest paintbrush, but that's okay. And I'm going to put this down where I want it to take effect. So I'm going to put this throughout the piece. Want to get good coverage on this because we're going to put the toilet paper down next, which I'll show you guys. Okay, now we're going to go square by square. It's okay if it's not perfect because we're going to manipulate it after we put it down. So we've got the first layer in place. Now we've got to take that Mod Podge water solution again and go over top the entire thing. And we're really just going to do like a dabbing motion. That first. We're gonna get full coverage again, and it's okay. Like I messed that up over there, but we're gonna put 2 more layers down minimum on this, so it's not completely unforgiving the way that we're doing this. And you want to try to erase those lines, which you do by basically just dabbing or your brush over between the sheets of toilet paper, just like this. You want to make sure you get the spots that are dry. Just cover them all up. Alright, so that's the first layer. Time for layer 2. Pat that in when you can so it sticks to the first layer. Okay, now it's time to get as much coverage as we can again. Again, we want to erase those transitional lines between the layers of toilet paper. Also want to erase any of the design in the toilet paper that you see. And you can just do that simply by taking a brush and dabbing it and stroking it in different directions, and that will eliminate the layer lines between the different parts of the different layers of the toilet paper, as you see here. Now it's time to put that third layer down. So we're going to just do the same process we've been doing this entire time. Getting full coverage on the area that we want covered with the water. Okay, so I'm gonna try to have some hot glue that comes down here to kind of show that there's water pouring in here consistently. And because of that, I want to have sort of like semicircles of water waves coming through, at least for the first portion of this. So how I'm gonna accomplish that is simply by taking the brush and just creating some semicircular waves. And they don't have to be super precise. And you just push against what you have in terms of the toilet paper to kind of create that push against. And so that will make it seem as though there is that force of water coming through the way that you're hoping it appears in the piece. So now that we have the flow of the water pattern in place, and we need this to dry still, I'm going to take the actual walls off of this. It's fully magnetized, so we can do that. I'm going to take these off as well, so that you can see just the water section is left, and we're going to dry this in front of a heater. So this is dried for more than 24 hours now, and as a result, it's very solid. So it's no longer a fragile toilet paper texture. It's almost like a plasticky kind of a feel to it, and you guys can hear how solid that is. So we're gonna paint this, and the way I'm gonna do that is by mixing some paints, and we're gonna use white. These are Anita's white, black, hunter green, and earth brown, and I'm just gonna kind of mix them together as I'm painting this, and you guys will see it. So given what we're doing here with the layout, this is where the drain is coming out that's pouring the water in. So this area is going to be more light, and then we're going to work our way down. You guys will see. So I'm going to just kind of mix together, and I'll show you guys this, how I'm going to do this here. Some brown and some white just to start it out, and a little bit of green in there. And because I just want this to look gross, because this is sewer water. And then I'm going to kind of just like start trying to cover this, and we're gonna go over this a couple different times, so you'll see how that works. I want to make sure I try to get some pretty good coverage, and it doesn't matter if I'm coming onto the concrete area, because that's going to be covered by the concrete barriers. So now I'm gonna just mix in a little bit more of a white on this area before it completely dries, just to give that effect that the water is like really flowing here and it's pouring in, you know, from the drain area. And so it'll kind of be more of a gradual blend of the colors, hopefully, by the end of this. And if I need to come back in afterwards to highlight that more, I can do that. But so I just want to make sure before everything kind of dries, now that I have that little base down, that I do a little bit more of that that light paint right now, which is what I'm trying to do here.
now I'm trying to get sort of to a point where I'm flowing from the lighter to sort of the whitish to kind of a grayish, brown to like more of a true brown. And then I'm going to go one shade probably darker even beyond this as it gets farther away from where the water is pouring in on the drain. So since this is all still relatively wet, it is, drying as I'm going, I can actually blend this in pretty easily, just by kind of like going over the spots that I had just done in the previous portion of this. So that's what I'm doing here to kind of make the darker colors kind of come out in the middle portion of this. And then we're going to do some highlights afterwards to even tie it in a little bit more with a little bit of a lighter hue to it. So for this part here, I'm doing like more of a, mostly I was using brown in the first portion of this. And so now I'm taking a green and mixing it with a brown instead of brown with like white or with black, which is what I was doing before. And I'm going in over top, and this is still wet, so it's allowing me to mix it in pretty well, pretty easily. And it's giving it more of that, like that sewage look that I really want. So I'm going to continue that up through this. Okay, so now what I'm really trying to do, because I want to have a better mixture blending of the edging, which I want to be lighter into that deeper gross color. I'm going around the perimeter with like a green, white, and brown mixture, and I am just blending it as best I can since this is all still wet, and so it's working out pretty well for me. Now this mixture stuff is really just a feel thing, so I'm not doing anything except for just looking at the colors and adjusting it from there. So you kind of have to just like experiment and see what looks good. So I'm gonna let this dry for a few minutes. I'm probably gonna stick it under like a heater, just to speed that up, and then I'm gonna highlight with lighter shades to get the waves that hit the top points. I'm gonna dry brush on there just to get it looking like the waves can pop a little bit more off of there. So one thing I noticed as this was starting to dry was that I was painting it from one side, and there was a lot of white behind some of the toilet paper parts that I had issue with. So one of the things, this isn't fully dry yet, that I started doing was just took a little bit of water. There's barely any water in here. Just wet the paintbrush a little bit, and then if you just go over it, you can really blend in those areas that have the white, and it nicely just kind of like blends into the shading that I had already done, as long as you don't put too much water on the brush. So you can see that area right there. I just got rid of all the white specks. So I'm going to go through and do that. And I think it's really going to make for a lot. And I'm going kind of from the darker to the lighter area. And I think it's really going to make this look, the transition of that material look a lot more natural. You can already kind of tell the difference from when I started this. That brush had a little bit too much water on it, but we're gonna just keep going through, come into the lighter areas, because we can always highlight afterwards with dry brushing if we lose some of like the wave features that we were wanting on this. Alright, so now I am done with that technique, and I'm going to actually let this dry, which is going to take a little while under some heaters. Alright, so now I'm going to do some highlights on the top parts of the waves, like these areas. And I'm just going to mix some white in with this green. And just, I want it to be almost white. But I don't want it to be like too crazy. I want it to look foamy. So here's what we're going to do once I get this done. I'm going to start over here just because this is already the light spot, just because it'll be forgiving if I make some mistakes or if I don't like the color. And you can see, so I'm just trying to get the top portions. And I didn't mix a lot of this, so I'm going to have to continue as I go. And it doesn't always have to be exactly the same color, because it's not a precise thing, but I'm just going to kind of go over the top parts, create that foam effect on those waves. And I'm not going to be super heavy-handed with this either. I'm just trying to And even in these darker areas, I'm going to have some spots where I let the foam go on the top parts of the waves. But I don't want to do all of them. So, I'm just going to go lightly. And I like to do it along the edges too, because the foaming would naturally happen there, and it kind of helps like blend things in a little bit more. And if you notice, I'm really not adding much to my brush here for this, so I'm just kind of using what's there so I don't go too crazy. And do that on both sides. And then get a few of these areas as well. And it's just super light. So once this is done, we'll move on to the next step, which is adding some Liquitex to make this actually look like water, like it's wet. Okay. So now I have the colors that I want on the paint job for this, but it still looks relatively matte finish, and it's supposed to be water. So I'm going to use this stuff, which is Liquitex acrylic mediums, and it's a gloss medium. Now this isn't cheap, it's $20 for this bottle, but a little of this stuff goes a long way. And this is a shout out to my friend Terrafoamer, who makes incredible dioramas. He's the one who told me this is the stuff to use, and I actually used it on my Namek dio, which I'll link to so you guys can check it out. That was the first time I used it, so this is the second time. And really all we're going to do is I'm going to pick a clean part of my palette here, and I've rinsed out my paintbrush that I was just using, and we're going to put some in there, and then I'm simply just going to go over top of this whole thing. And once this dries, it kind of goes on like it's going to be white, but it won't. It'll dry clear, and it won't yellow over time according to the packaging. And so we're just going to cover this entire thing, and then we're going to let it dry, and we'll take a look and see what it looks like. So I'll speed this up so you guys don't have to hear me talk through it, but we just got to apply it all the way through. So okay, so now I have applied the first coat to this. We might only do one coat. We got to see what it looks like when it dries. But we're going to go ahead and put this under the heater and let this dry really quick. Thank you for watching this skill tutorial where I showed you guys a technique that uses toilet paper, Mod Podge Liquitex, and of course acrylic paints to create a believable water effect for this sewer diorama. Now you could apply this exact technique and change the watercolor if you wanted to, but we went with this to make it a gross, disgusting sewer water setup. If you guys liked the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the like button so that you are aware of our new tutorials that we're going to have coming out. We want to focus more on skill development in 2022, and we hope that this video was something that you found valuable. So we'll see you guys in the next episode, and please let us know in the comments what kinds of tutorials you want to see in the future.